On the serene night of January 1st, 1978, Air India Flight 855, a Boeing 747 named Emperor Ashoka, lifted off from Mumbai's Santa Cruz Airport, bound for Dubai. Just 101 seconds after takeoff, the aircraft tragically plunged into the Arabian Sea, claiming the lives of all 213 passengers and crew on board. This documentary delves into the harrowing details of that fateful night, unraveling the series of events that led to one of India's most devastating aviation disasters. Through expert analysis, eyewitness accounts, and heartfelt tributes, we honor the memory of those lost and explore the lasting impact on aviation safety worldwide. Join us as we journey back to that night and uncover the story behind the tragedy over the Arabian Sea. Air India Flight 855, the Emperor Ashoka, was a symbol of power and progress in the Indian skies. This aircraft was the Boeing 747, famously known as the Jumbo Jet, a marvel of engineering and technology in its time. The Boeing 747 was renowned for its size and reliability. Powered by 4 Pratt & Whitney engines, it was designed for long-haul flights. With the capacity to carry 213 passengers and 23 crew members, it featured advanced navigation and communication systems for its era. On the night of 1st January 1978, Flight 855 was scheduled to depart from Mumbai's Chhatrapati Shivaji International Airport en route to Dubai. The route took it westward over the Arabian Sea, covering a distance of approximately 2,000 kilometers. After departure, the aircraft was set to climb to an altitude of 35,000 feet, cruising over the Arabian Sea before entering the airspace of the Gulf countries. The flight path was clear and well-defined, with weather reports indicating normal conditions. The Boeing 747 was more than just a machine. It carried the hopes and responsibilities of its passengers and crew. Understanding its technical capabilities and flight plan was the first step in unraveling the tragedy. In the cockpit of this Boeing 747, known as the Emperor Ashoka, sat an experienced team. Captain Madan Lal Kukar, a veteran pilot with over 18,000 flying hours, was in command. His steady hands and confident leadership had guided countless flights safely across continents. Beside him, the respected First Officer Indu Virmani and Flight Engineer Alfredo Faria. Inside the cabin, Chief Steward John D'Souza led a team of 20 flight attendants. Their role extended beyond serving meals. They were the guardians of passenger safety and comfort. John D'Souza, a veteran in the field, coordinated the crew with precision. Each flight attendant had undergone rigorous training to handle emergencies and care for passengers. They greeted each traveler with a reassuring smile, masking the weight of their responsibilities. Among the 213 passengers were families, business travelers, and holidaymakers. Each person carried their own story. Some were looking forward to reuniting with loved ones, while others were on important missions. Parents, children, and elderly travelers, each soul on board, added to the mosaic of life. This flight represented a cross-section of humanity. Different cultures, backgrounds, and experiences converged in a shared journey, unaware of the fate that awaited them. This was more than just a flight. It was the culmination of meticulous planning, hours of inspections, and a continuous commitment to safety. The groundwork laid before takeoff was crucial. Before every flight, a rigorous inspection process took place. A team of ground engineers meticulously checked each engine's performance, the hydraulic systems, and electrical connections. Every part of the aircraft, the fuel tanks, landing gear, and wings was inspected. There was no room for compromise in this procedure. In the cockpit, Captain Madan Lal Kukar and his team reviewed a comprehensive checklist. They examined the flight plan, navigation systems, and weather reports. Every switch, instrument, and gauge was checked for precision. First Officer S.S. Karnik and Flight Engineer Ramesh Bhargava cross-checked systems to ensure flawless operation during the flight. This preparation was a safeguard against any technical issues that might arise. Led by Chief Steward John D'Souza, the cabin crew conducted a detailed briefing. Emergency equipment such as life jackets, oxygen masks, and fire extinguishers was thoroughly inspected. Each crew member was assigned specific sections of the cabin. Their role was clear: ensure the safety and comfort of every passenger on board. Before passengers boarded, thorough security checks were completed. Ground staff managed baggage loading, ensuring proper weight distribution, an essential factor for flight stability. As passengers boarded, the cabin crew welcomed them with warm smiles. Each passenger had their own story, some traveling for business, others to reunite with family. In the cockpit, Captain Madan Lal Kukar, First Officer S.S. Karnik, and Flight Engineer Ramesh Bhargava completed the final takeoff checklist. Every switch and gauge was scrutinized. After receiving clearance from air traffic control, Captain Kukar maneuvered the aircraft onto the runway. At 8:40 p.m., the flight received takeoff clearance. The captain advanced the throttle, and the aircraft began to accelerate. The engine's roar intensified as the jumbo jet gained momentum along the runway. In the cabin, Chief Steward John D'Souza and his team ensured passengers were ready for takeoff. Seatbelts were checked and safety instructions were repeated. There was a mix of excitement and nervousness among the passengers. As the aircraft lifted off the runway and soared into the sky, passengers breathed a sigh of relief, filled with anticipation for the journey ahead. Many looked out the windows, watching the twinkling lights of Mumbai fade into the distance. The takeoff of the Boeing 747-237B was a complex technical operation. Its 4 Pratt & Whitney engines generated a combined thrust of over 80,000 pounds. All systems were under close supervision, with the flight engineer monitoring engine RPM and hydraulic pressure. Accelerating down the runway, the aircraft reached a speed of 160 knots before lifting off. The nose rose, and Flight 855 ascended into the Mumbai night sky, climbing steadily. After takeoff, the aircraft climbed to 1,500 feet. All systems appeared normal. The journey seemed routine, a standard departure from Mumbai. Yet, beneath this calm exterior, an unforeseen sequence of events was about to unfold. Moments after takeoff, the aircraft climbed to an altitude of 2,500 feet. In the cockpit, everything appeared normal. Suddenly, the plane began to bank to the left. Captain Madan Lal Kukar attempted to regain control. Flight engineer Ramesh Bhargava checked all engines and hydraulic systems. Despite their efforts, the bank angle increased dangerously. First Officer S.S. Karnik reviewed the navigation systems, but there was no immediate sign of technical malfunction. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. In the cabin, the crew noticed the unusual tilt. Chief Steward John D'Souza and the flight attendants tried to reassure passengers, but fear spread quickly. Panic set in among the passengers. Some prayed, others clutched their seats, bracing for the unknown. Families held onto each other in the chaos. Within seconds, the aircraft banked at an angle close to 100 degrees. The pilots struggled to stabilize the plane, but control had slipped away. At 8:45 p.m., Flight 855 plunged into the Arabian Sea. In the immediate aftermath, the Indian Navy and Coast Guard launched search operations in the Arabian Sea. The recovery was challenging due to the depth of the sea and the darkness of night. Pieces of the wreckage, including the flight data recorder, FDR, and cockpit voice recorder, CVR, were retrieved, providing critical clues about the plane's final moments. Analysis of the wreckage revealed that the aircraft had not crashed straight, but at a sharp left bank angle. This indicated a loss of control rather than a mechanical failure in the engines or structure. A crucial focus of the investigation was on the aircraft's navigational instruments. Investigators discovered a malfunction in the artificial horizon indicator, which is vital for maintaining the plane's orientation. This instrument's failure meant that Captain Madan Lal Kukar believed the aircraft was level, while it was actually banking dangerously to the left. The faulty readings led the pilots to make incorrect control inputs, worsening the situation. Both the first officer and the flight engineer were also misled by the erroneous data, delaying necessary corrective actions. Spatial disorientation played a significant role in the accident. This phenomenon occurs when pilots lose their sense of direction, especially at night or over water, where visual cues are minimal. Captain Kukar's reliance on the faulty artificial horizon, combined with the lack of external visual references, led to a fatal misjudgment of the plane's attitude. The crew's communication also came under scrutiny. In high-stress situations, effective communication between the cockpit crew is essential. However, confusion and a lack of coordinated responses exacerbated the crisis. The very next day, the tragedy made headlines around the globe. News of Flight 855's crash spread swiftly, and international media covered the story extensively, turning it into a worldwide symbol of shared grief and aviation's fragility. The Indian Navy undertook a relentless search operation, retrieving debris from the downed aircraft and bringing it back to Mumbai. Amid the wreckage, they recovered as many bodies as possible, each a solemn reminder of the lives lost. The somber return marked the beginning of a nation's collective mourning and the quest for answers. At Mumbai Airport, chaos and grief unfolded as family members of passengers and crew gathered, desperate for information. Airport authorities struggled to manage the influx of distraught relatives, many of whom clung to hope until official confirmations came through. The tragedy brought with it profound economic and social challenges. Many victims were primary breadwinners, leaving families in financial distress. Some families struggled with paperwork, delays, and legal formalities, further compounding their grief. Counseling services were limited at the time, and many families had to cope with their trauma alone. The loss also brought social isolation for some, especially in close-knit communities where the victim's absence was deeply felt. On a broader scale, the tragedy drew attention to the need for India to modernize its aviation infrastructure. The government faced pressure to ensure that such a disaster would not be repeated. As a result, there was an increased focus on enforcing stricter safety regulations, improving pilot training, and investing in advanced navigational technologies. Overall, the crash served as a wake-up call, emphasizing the critical importance of maintaining rigorous safety standards and the need for a robust system to support affected families. It marked a turning point in the evolution of India's aviation industry, leading to reforms that would shape its future trajectory. In response, aviation authorities worldwide, including in India, implemented stricter regulations regarding the maintenance and testing of flight instruments. Artificial horizons were upgraded, and regular checks were mandated to ensure that they were functioning properly. This was particularly crucial for long-haul flights where pilots often fly at night or in conditions of poor visibility. The requirement for more rigorous inspections of critical flight systems, such as altimeters, compasses, and gyroscopes, became a standard practice. Additionally, the investigation brought attention to the importance of enhancing pilot training, particularly in handling emergency scenarios involving instrument failure. The introduction of dedicated training on spatial disorientation became a key aspect of pilot education. Pilots were trained on how to recognize the symptoms of disorientation and how to recover from it in a safe manner, using instruments and visual cues. Another crucial lesson from the Air India Flight 855 tragedy was the importance of effective cockpit management and communication. During the flight, there was a lack of clear coordination between the captain, first officer, and flight engineer. The decision-making process was muddled, and roles were not clearly defined, leading to confusion during critical moments. This ultimately hindered the crew's ability to make quick, effective decisions in the face of emergency conditions. In the wake of the crash, the concept of crew resource management, CRM, was introduced and widely adopted. CRM emphasizes the importance of clear communication, mutual respect, and a team-based approach to cockpit decision-making. In response to the incident, there was a surge in technological innovations in aviation. One of the most significant advancements was the introduction of the Ground Proximity Warning System, GPWS. This system alerts pilots when the aircraft is in danger of colliding with the ground, providing an early warning of potential terrain or obstacles ahead. The implementation of GPWS became mandatory for all commercial aircraft, drastically reducing the likelihood of controlled flight into terrain, CFIT, accidents. Institutionally, Air India was forced to re-evaluate its internal procedures and systems. The airline, which had long been seen as a national symbol, took steps to rebuild its reputation by investing in better training programs, adopting more advanced safety technologies, and implementing more rigorous safety protocols. This included the development of a dedicated safety department that would work alongside the DGCA to ensure compliance with international aviation standards. The legacy of Flight 855 has influenced how both the public and the aviation industry view air travel safety today. It pushed the Indian aviation sector towards global best practices and increased the commitment to ensuring that such a tragedy would never happen again.